In the working-class neighborhoods of Caracas, where laundry hangs like festive banners between weathered buildings, and the rich scent of strong coffee mixes with the dreamy sounds of salsa, a child was born on November 23, 1962. His name, Nicolás Maduro Moras. This was the simple beginning for a man who would one day lead one of the most controversial and tumultuous nations in Latin America. Childhood was no game. His father, Nicolás Maduro Garcia, was a leftist union leader and political activist. From him, young Nicolás learned the meaning of fighting for workers' rights, but he also tasted the bitterness of absence. His father, immersed in battles for justice, was often gone from home. The family, his mother, Teresa, and his two brothers, survived on what she could earn as a singer at weddings and occasionally on the radio. But the cruelest blow came in his teenage years. His father fell ill with cancer. The adolescent Nicolás witnessed the strong man, the stalwart unionist, transform into a frail body consumed by disease. In 1988, his father passed away. This loss left a deep wound and forged a conviction in young Nicolás that an unjust healthcare system had contributed to his family's tragedy. He left high school. The young man had to work to support his family, and there was no job more humble or exhausting than driving the small, propuestos buses that clogged the streets of Caracas. Imagine him with us, young Nicolás, tall, driving for long hours in suffocating traffic, listening to people's troubles, their talk about rising prices, the hardship of life, dreams shattered against the rock of reality. He wasn't just a driver. He was a listener. And on that bus, his social convictions matured. Politics awaited him at the end of every route. He was drawn to the left, to revolutionary ideas. He began his union activism among bus drivers, defending his colleagues whose struggles he lived daily. But his political journey was about to take a fateful turn. In February 1992, while 29-year-old Nicolás was driving his bus as usual, he heard earth-shattering news. A failed military coup attempt led by a young army lieutenant colonel named Hugo Chavez. To many, Chavez was a dangerous rebel, but to bus drivers and workers, he was a voice shouting the very anger they felt in their hearts. Upon hearing Chavez's famous speech, where he alone shouldered responsibility for the failure, uttering the words, "Cora hora," for now, Maduro knew he had found his cause and his leader. Maduro joined Chavez's underground movement. He was arrested and detained in the Yale prison. Prison, which could be an end for some, was another school for him. There, his political faith was hardened, and he built a network of comrades in the cause. After his release, he became a pillar of the Bolivarian movement led by Chavez. And when Chavez rose to power democratically in 1998, Maduro, the former driver and unionist, was by his side. He learned from his mentor, from Chavez's captivating charisma, his vision for Latin American unity, his political savvy. Maduro took on significant roles: deputy in the Constituent Assembly, then president of the National Assembly, and later Minister of Foreign Affairs. In this last role, he traveled the world, meeting leaders from China to Iran, weaving a web of alliances that would prove crucial in the future. But fate was lurking in the shadows once more. In 2011, President Chavez was diagnosed with cancer, the same disease that took his father. Maduro stood by his comrade and mentor as a son and spiritual heir. He was one of the last people Chavez spoke to before leaving for Cuba for a final surgery. And before his passing, in a weakened voice, Chavez entrusted his people: choose Nicolás Maduro. This mandate became the greatest challenge of Maduro's life, to succeed a legend. In April 2013, Maduro won a special election by a razor-thin margin. But he did not just receive the presidential seat. He inherited a nation at a breaking point, an economy reliant on oil with prices beginning to plummet, political opponents who refused to recognize him, and a people divided by grief for their lost comandante. He faced the storm. Oil prices collapsed. The economic situation exploded, hyperinflation reaching mythical levels, scarcity of food and medicine, the exodus of millions of Venezuelans. The international community, led by the United States, imposed harsh sanctions and diplomatic isolation. At home, massive protests demanding his departure erupted, sometimes turning into bloody clashes. He was called a dictator. His opponents accused him of dismantling democracy and relying on the military. But from the perspective of his supporters, Maduro was the man who withstood an unprecedented economic siege, waged an economic war against corrupt elites and speculators, and defended the nation's sovereignty against immense external pressure. He was the man who inherited the impossible and tried, with all his limited means and his unionist and political experience, to keep the ship afloat in a perfect hurricane. The story of Nicolás Maduro is a story of intersecting paths, the path of the boy who lost his father to illness and faced poverty, the path of the driver who heard his people's groan from the driver's seat, the path of the disciple who tried to bear the weight of his larger-than-life mentor's legacy, and the path of the president who found himself at the eye of a historic storm, accused from abroad and surrounded by his people's pain from within. Whether you see him as a popular hero who stood firm against an empire, or a ruler who led his country to crisis, one truth remains. From the heart of the poor neighborhoods of Caracas to the seat of power in the Miraflores Palace, walked the journey of one man, carrying with him all the contradictions and challenges of an entire nation. A story that reminds us that behind every title of president, there is a human being, with his wounds, his convictions, his dreams, and his unbreakable will. What are your thoughts on this complex journey? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the figures who shape our world.